Jester said.
Well, do if you think Nathan looks bad.
They can just look away from the monitor. Just sound over.
Look away.
It's a good Chicago song.
This is?
Look Away.
Oh, yeah. That was the lead singer right after Peter Cetera left.
I thought you were thinking about Chicago House.
All right, got to get the new comments page up. Let's see. Yeah.
So have you ever done one of these before, Luke?
I've done a few podcasts. Yeah, you seem a little more sophisticated than some of the ones I've done in the past. Excited.
You're seeing all the sophistication. I'm really sitting on a milk crate.
All right. I'm sitting in a hotel right now.
Craig, keep the chickens and the cows quieted down there.
All right, we got comments. Terry Taylor and Melvin.
And we very well might hear a mourning dove here. There's been a mourning dove out here making all kinds of noises.
What sound does a mourning dove make? Like, I want to hear you imitate it.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
It almost sounds like a howl.
I was going to ask you, Craig, dude. Is it time for cats to be in heat? Because, you know, me being a night person coming in, I've been hearing some strange.
No, that was Larry singing karaoke.
Like,
that was Larry.
Okay. That's what it was. You know, there's just like a regular meow, and then there's like a
siren.
Yeah.
Yep. We can always tell when they're out in our backyard because our lights come on. They're usually in the backyard playing on the wood pile.
Need to get you
got about 5 of them.
You need a trail cam so when emotion starts recording, see what's going on.
Well, we record 24/7, so.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Sheriff's on.
Ooh. I'll have to send you a link, Craig, of a...
Steve Scoey's on. Chan is on from Chan's Chinese Diner.
Ooh.
With a huge hot dog.
Peggy Roberts.
We ate supper at Lee Ray's the other night, actually. We had the New York strip.
Rick Modest's on.
I hear people raving about Lee Ray's hot dogs are like the best in town.
Hey, I left him a review about his hot dogs, and he hasn't read it on his weekend review thing yet either.
I will have to go over and get a steak, though, now that Craig has mentioned it.
I liked it.
Medium rare.
Of course.
Baked potato or steak fries.
Baked potato. It's soup and salad bar.
You do need a little roughage. It's good.
I forgot to get a water. I'm going to grab water real quick.
39 seconds.
Sure. Can I get it with a twist? Or? Ooh, all right.
Thank you.
Tonight's Roberts Report brought to you by Maker's Mark Purified Water. Mineral enhanced for taste.
Yeah. Are we ready?
Ready. Let's hit it.
From the Man Cave Studios in South Parkersburg, West Virginia, live and uncensored.
I don't want to to tell him what a cheap, lying, no good, rotten, four-flushing, low.
This is Roberts Report with your host, Craig Roberts.
And I've been thinking that maybe it's time to let them know that we're alive. Everybody, lift your hands to the sky. If you feel it, you feel it. Let them know the feeling will survive. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Roberts Report.
Good evening.
I am Craig Roberts, and we also have in the man cave here, of course, Nathan Hess,
Hello.
co-host, and Mission Controls, Scott Martin,
Hello.
and we also have a special guest, Luke Mickelson from Twin Falls, Idaho.
Any relation to Phil?
I wish.
He didn't golf. Maybe not though. He didn't golf very good this weekend. He didn't golf very good this weekend.
No, his ball went to the water at least. I saw at least twice, and then of course there was the one off the tree. he was playing like I normally play. So, welcome, Luke. Appreciate you taking some time to join us there. We've actually got a couple interesting news things here. I thought maybe we'd go ahead and share them from these. These are actual news stories that come from ABC News. Some visitors to the Detroit Zoo will soon be able to add animal droppings to their souvenir list. Free buckets of 5 pounds of animal manure dubbed Detroit Zoo Poo.
They're charging for this?
I guess that's what it says. It's real. It's on ABC News, right? It has to be real.
Now that reminds me of back with Scott would remember this. Zippo in the morning. He'd had his lion manure that he'd sell in little bags. So
Wow.
I don't know. That's
Can't say that I remember that.
Must be something that's something going. And then another one here. We got the headline is Daffy Idea. Wisconsin voter wants to bring ducks to election. Says a voter in a tiny northeast Wisconsin town wants to bring ducks to the polling station along with a sign that reads, "If you don't vote, you can't squawk."
Wow.
okay.
Town clerk Yvonne Zobel says the voter asked town officials Tuesday whether she could bring 3 caged ducks and the sign to the town hall during the November election. Zobel duck giving an answer initially and instead checked with the state elections commission. It advised her to keep the ducks at least 100 feet away from the polling booths. How this made the news, I don't know, but there you go.
You know, they have broadened people's horizons now of the animals you can have as licensed comfort animals. You know, it used to be just dogs, but what was it? The lady got in trouble with a duck. Yeah, peacocks.
Is another comfort animal. Yep. Hope everybody had a happy Easter. We were off, obviously, last weekend. Did you do, Scott, any kind of special things that you did for Easter dinner? Or
Yeah, we cooked dinner. We always do that for family.
Church or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
Was it a ham kind of dinner kind of thing? It has to be ham
Ours was ham.
Yours was ham. Okay.
Yeah, we had got our family together. That was we ate, and some of them went to church. Not everybody went to church, but it was pretty cool. What about you, Luke? What'd you do for Easter? Anything cool?
Just spent some time with family. I've been traveling quite a bit, and so it was nice to take a couple of days and spend some time with their family. They always put a nice spread together with my kids love going up there. It's out in the farmland of Idaho, and they run around and chase cows, and
yeah,
it was fun.
Awesome. Let's see what else. Oh, one other thing in the news, and then we'll get to the good stuff. We had there was Luke, I don't know if you're into the UFC, but I'm into the MMA fighting quite a bit. I like watching it. And there was a big thing that went on with Conor McGregor, I guess, on Friday night. And I'm sure it's been in the news a little bit. I guess some of his thugs attacked a bus and caused some of them to miss. Some people think that it might be, it could be set up. I don't know. Could be. I guess we'll wait and see if there was headlines today that showed Dana White's already forgiven him for it. So I don't know. And
I've missed this.
Well, he makes a lot of money for Dana.
yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, you know, he made over $100 million in the boxing with Floyd Mayweather, and UFC fighters just do not make that kind of money. So
No.
it's possible that this all could have been some kind of a thing to, you know, maybe bring more excitement. I don't know. I just hope we don't turn into WWE type stuff, because that's the last thing we need. It's
was there any what happened, Craig?
well, let me start from
You're making me think
Yeah.
of like the Mike Tyson event now.
Well,
I think of that somebody lost a
Khabib, which was supposed to be on the main card. Him and his team cornered one of Conor's team fighters by himself, and they kind of got into a little I don't want to call it skirmish, but he had his hands on him and kind of gave him a little slap to the back of the head and kind of bullied him a little bit. So in turn, Conor flew a bunch of his Irish people over on a private jet to return the favor to him. So
a little retaliation thing.
yeah,
Okay.
it was all set up by, they have this club or organization called the Mac Life or something like that. They have credentials to all the UFC fights. They let these thugs into the area where it should have been restricted. The UFC fighters just got done with a media obligation thing, and they were on their way back to the hotels, and Conor and his team went out there throwing chairs. Conor threw a two-wheeler dolly through one of the windows and supposedly broke glass and cut somebody's face, and so that's where we're at with it now.
A little intimidation going on, but not anything as serious as watching one of the Godfather movies of.
Not yet, but I mean,
definitely some taking care of some family business going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were both at fault. You know, they both bullied each way, and one was trying to get up on the other, and so I don't know. We'll see how it turns out. There's a prediction that November that there'll be a big money-making fight for Khabib and Conor McGregor. So we'll see how it all pans out. But
You're thinking it's a media thing to create buzz in the news.
There was some awful interesting camera angles that saw the whole thing. I realize everybody has cell phones these days, but this looked more like the Blair Witch
little
Project
stage
type thing. So I guess we'll just wait and see what comes out of it. So anyway, let's get to our special guest here. Luke Mickelson is just to kind of set it up a little bit, and then I'm going to turn you loose, Luke. What turned me onto this, I follow Mike Rowe, obviously, on TV. Several people have watched his Dirty Jobs.
The blue collar man.
That
We're
is
trying
correct.
to bring it back.
That's correct. And he has started this news show called Returning the Favor. And I don't think it's on TV. I think the only place you find it is actually on Facebook or on his own little video log type thing. It's a series. And what he does is they go across America. They find people based on recommendations of other people that where they can go and kind of promote them, and then they kind of help them with their they call them do-gooders, and that's their way of giving back. So that's what kind of I follow Mike Rowe quite a bit. I've seen this show. I watched it. I watched the show that you were involved with, Luke, and it was just that's kind of right up the alley of what, our podcast. We like doing things that make a difference in communities, and this is by far one of the most giving and rewarding things I could see. That go ahead and if you don't care, kind of give a history of it and.
Sure. Yeah. So, Sleep in Heavenly Peace started back in 2012. I'm just a young hick from farm boy from Kimberly, Idaho, and I had a interesting experience. I was part of a youth group. I was a leader over a young men's youth group. And in our own community, in our church, actually, we had a family that had kids sleeping on the floor. There was 2 to 3 of them, and we learned about them. And, I just raised my hand and said, I think we could probably put a bed together and figure out how we can help them. And so it'd be a good exercise for the boys. And I'd never done it before, so I was a little nervous, but I like playing with power tool, and we'll teach the boys something. So
right.
We went down, got some wood, and my daughter had a bunk bed, and I just measured it out and figured out how to put it together, and we put these boys to work. And in a couple of nights, we finished building this bunk bed and sanded it, and got it ready for them, and then some of the other leaders took most of the boys over to deliver these this bunk bed. And I stayed in my garage and kind of cleaned up. And what was interesting is the next day, I was actually church and Sunday, and went to church, and everybody just couldn't start talking about how great the experience was. And I felt pretty bad because I was excited to build it. It was a lot of fun, but it sounded like delivering it was even more fun. Mm-hmm. So, it was around Christmas time, the first week of Christmas, and we were just getting in the Christmas holiday, and I just kept thinking about how, man, I wish I would have loved to have been there. And my kids started complaining about Christmas and the toys that they knew they weren't going to get. And every parent feels obligated to try to get their kids to what they need and support them and have a good Christmas. And they start rattling off stuff, especially after this experience of these kids not even having a bed. I just said, you know what? I want my kids to appreciate what they have. I want to have them to feel the sense and joy that I had for serving others. So I said, you know what? Get off the couch. We're going to go, and that extra wood that we've got, we're going to build another one. So we went out in my garage. It was cold. It was snowing outside, but we built another bunk bed. It took us a couple of days. Me and my kids and my wife. My kids were one was trying to think now. He was just born, and then my daughter was 6, and my son was 9, I think, if I recall. So anyways, we built another one and threw it on Facebook and said, okay, does anybody know a family that's got a kid sleeping on the floor? I heard built one. We just want to give back to the community, or give this as my family to another family. And I kind of expected to have, everybody saying, oh, my free bed. I'd love to have a free bed. I need one. What happened was actually opposite. I had more people say, oh my gosh, that's great. I want to help. If there's kids on the floor, I want to help. Here's some pillows. Here's some sheets. I've got some mattresses. Next thing you know, I was floor to ceiling in my garage, mattresses, sheets, pillows. My wife I built her a salon in her garage. She couldn't use it because it was full of 22 mattresses. So I looked at my wife and I said, you know what? I think we've got something here. I think we could do some good here. So I went around to the different stores to try to figure out pricing and get the best I could, and walked into the Lowe's store, and Lowe's was just fabulous. They gave me 50% off anything I bought. They just loved the idea. And so we took our Christmas money, and we ended up building 10 more bunk beds in my garage. It took us a little over 3.5 weeks. But we built them just in time for Christmas, and we delivered most of them before Christmas came. So it was kind of a goal to get us done. And I had friends and family coming and help me the whole time, and it was just such a neat experience. And that's how SHP started, anyways. We weren't SHP at the time, but that's how the idea started.
So who come up with the idea of the name of it? Is that you, your wife, or
It was my wife, because she really didn't like my first name, because my first name was Beds for Babes. And it just didn't ring well.
Wow.
I kind of like that one. But
Yeah, there's people that would. We figured, searching that on the internet, you're going to come up with probably some different results.
I guarantee you yours is not the top search result.
No, it wouldn't be. Had it down and above. I just said, I don't know what's a good name, and my wife just says it was Christmas time. I don't even recall if she had just heard the Silent Night song, but she says, "What about Sleep in Heavenly Peace?" And it was one of those duh moments, obvious, and we're like, that makes sense.
I will hand it to you. I love that name. You want to talk about original and something that really, like the double entendre thing. I like that about it too. That it means two things. So it's great.
How many beds are out there
now? Makes
now?
so much sense.
How many beds have you built now in total?
approximately?
So I brought up my computer here, and now it went to sleep. So since 2000, so we built those first 11, and we pretty much have doubled every year. So the next year, 2013, we started the Boise chapter, and we built 15 in Twin and 10 up in Boise. So we built 25 together. And we had the Boise and the Twin Falls chapter for the next 4 years. So we went 11 the first year, 25 the second, 51 the third, 77 was the only year we didn't double. Then we went to 136 in 2016. We thought that was just amazing. But as we kept going, we started realizing that this need was much, much larger than what we ever expected or anticipated. And so a lot of people, not just kids in beds or kids without beds, rather, but more people wanting to help. So there was actually people kind of getting upset that we did this build and they didn't know, because we only did the Christmas time. We started doing, 1 or 2 during the year, and that's how we got up to 136. But 2017, we had a lot of interest in people that wanted to do the same thing. So we kind of sat around, me and my friend Jordan Allen, he's our chairman of the board, and his wife, my wife, we sat down and said, you know what? We could, what does it look like to maybe do more? What does it look like to start other chapters? And we figured, you know what? We could probably do it. Well, 2017, the first chapter we started was San Diego, outside of Idaho anyways. And from there, we put on 12 new chapters throughout the country, from San Diego to Maryland to Minnesota, Washington, Texas. And we built 612.
Oh, my.
Bunk beds. So that's over 1,200 kids that we got off the floor in 1 year.
And I can understand that. I mean, I was talking with a childhood friend today of that. I can't say that I grew up poor, but I grew up in what would be considered a middle class type of family. But I always had a bed to sleep in. The mattress was not on the floor. There was a mattress, I guess we could even say that. And the economy has changed. We've had problems with drugs and things, and the bare basics you don't think about, and also the breaking down of the community. And I like the fact that you're talking about not only did you build beds, but then you had a lot of people like, hey, wow, that I'm interested in that. I'll help out, and so you're almost creating like a community type of thing in your area, and then it's moving from to other areas want to get involved in things I think that's a really good thing that we need to bring back in America along, with not to use the phrase make America great again, but you're making families are there not a lot of people get to grow up with both family members there. It brings community back together, is that the people you live around and your church and things become your family and make your life better.
Nathan, you hit the nail on the head. When we first started, obviously the main goal is, and our mission statement is no kid sleeps on the floor in our town. But what we found was exactly there was just as much of a need and desire for the community to be involved. And so we really feel like we knock two birds out with one stone. We provide beds for kids, which is something that is not happening at a service not often provided by any charity out there. But we also provide ways for the community to help itself. It kind of goes back to, you teach a man to fish, he'll feed himself. We feel like if we can bring the community involved, then they learn the real need out there, and then they are actually helping themselves. You got chapter presidents that help themselves or help the community out. We don't build bunk beds in Twin Falls, Idaho, and ship them all over the country. We don't think that's a good model. We want someone in, let's say, West Virginia, in the towns of West Virginia, to start a chapter, teach them how to do it, and they support themselves. Or else we would just get donations. We'd go to Target or Walmart or somewhere and buy some cheap bunk bed and give it to someone. It would probably be even cheaper, but it doesn't provide that real need of the community to be involved. In fact, Mike Rowe did I think it was a radio interview, and he put it really well. He said, SHP and organizations like SHP, the ones that are found on return paper, are antidotes to what's going on in the media. You hear so much of the crimes and horrible stories, gun shootings, and things of that nature. And then what does the country focus in on? Those types of things. And we feel like these types of opportunities to get the community involved and have them refocus on the fact that there are really good people out there. I think it'll change the attitude. It is an antidote to the food that they're fed on the media.
Well, there's been a lot of talk about, they've taken vocational things away.
That's a good point.
I got shop class and thing when I was in school, but now kids don't have that available in all schools. So, like you said, not only are you providing the community thing, but maybe a kid sees what you're doing. I don't know if you do it inside in a building or if you're doing it outside, and it's like, hey, what's going on here? Maybe they've never had the opportunity to use a hammer before, never used a power tool, things like that, and that gives the older people that like myself that have the advantage of getting that training in public school or having a grandparent or a relative that you're I don't want to get into the big brothers big sisters things, but you're kind of touching on that a little bit of you're giving something away that there's not a price tag on. A lot of people today talk about, all there are is minimum wage jobs out there. Well, the money an hour you make is not everything. It's what you can give back to your community, which you could say is priceless. That there's not an hourly wage there. You're sharing your knowledge that you gain and passing it on to another generation.
Yeah, I've watched a couple of your live videos that you did there, and he definitely all the chapters get the youth involved, and like you said, I mean the vocational. I mean, our kids in this generation, unless the parents do teach it, you don't know how, and sometimes just how to even use a ruler.
I think it goes along with a lot of things. I mean, I know there's a lot of, activity with firearms we've had here in the news, and that firearms are dangerous and only bad people have them and things like that. I mean,
right.
that can transcend right into, oh no, that's a power saw. That's a dangerous thing. That's going to cut your arm off. Well, there's a lot of training that's involved, and if you learn how to use things safely, then you'll be fine. And nail guns, we're talking about drills and things. You learn how to use that stuff, and you could be in one of these chapters to build beds, and then someone says, "Hey, I'm looking for someone to help me do carpentry," or start a summer job, and then turn into being a contractor and things like that.
So, how many chapters do you have now, Luke?
Before RTF aired, we had 14 chapters that we started.
Right.
Since the era of RTF, we've had a lot of interest. We just recently, in the first wave of chapter trainers being done, so we put 8 new chapters on. We had one chapter kind of dissolve a little bit. He's going through some time and needed to step away. So right now we have 20 nationwide.
How many again?
And most of those are...
It skipped a little bit when you... How many did you say now? 23?
21.
21, okay. 21, wow.
When you build the bunk beds, you had mentioned about buying supplies at a discount at Lowe's. Do you use any... do people bring lumber that's maybe from a job site that was extra, or have you integrated... I know we always talk about I built something out of pallets and things. Is that type of construction material available to use?
When we started, I remember going around to lumberyard sites, home build sites. I had some construction buddies that would pick up wood. Anything that was 42 inches or bigger, 2x6, I'd take. Now it's that's when I was pretty much on my own budget. Now we get enough of interest, and the way the program's set up now is if we have what's called a sponsor a build day flyer, and what it is we can go into a local corporation and actually show them all the pieces that we use, including mattresses, the whole 9 yards. And if you went and bought all those pieces and assembled it yourself, the average is about $390, just under $400. And that's if you're buying twin size mattresses at $85 a piece, which is pretty cheap. So what we've done with our discounts and going and talking to working with corporations to try to get those, like Lowe's, to get those costs down, we've got it down to about $300 a bunk bed.
Ooh.
And again, that's fully furnished, everything. And so when we go to some corporation, a bank or a car dealership, or any corporation that wants to have a team building activity, we present them this building, the sponsor build program, and say, okay, how many bunk beds would you like to build, and or what's your budget? And they'll usually come up and say, well, how many can we build? And well, we could build 10 an hour is how fast we can build them. So if you want to build 10 or 20 bunk beds, it's going to be $3,000 or $6,000 donation. And what's really nice about that is we have everything ready for them. So all they have to do is say, no problem. Here's the date. Here's the donation. We show up. We set everything up. The employees come out. We build bunk beds. We put them back in the trailer, go back to the storage unit, and they had a fabulous experience. And so going out to find these little pieces of scrap wood is just really difficult, because a lot of these chapter presidents are so consumed now, getting build days put together, fundraising, delivering beds. There's just not a lot of time to go and piece these little donations together. But it's what we were built on.
Do you ever have the opportunity for one of the children that that is going to receive a bed actually gets to get involved and be a part, so they can say, hey, they invite their friends over, like, hey, I put this nail in here, I put this screw in here, I helped build this bed, and that they've got the pride that they helped build that, and then hopefully they could help build one for someone else.
Absolutely. We strongly encourage those that have received a bunk bed to come back, and some of them have. And we've had a few that have wanted beds, and we said, hey, come be a part of the next build date, build your own bed.
Oh,
and so absolutely.
Craig, it's a bunk bed pyramid scheme. That's what it is. I'm going to get it.
It's true. And we're going to come to your own home.
We'll help. No. I help build one, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to build one, and I'm going to find somebody. Yeah. And then once a kid's got one built, I'm sure they say, hey, I've got a friend who lives down the street that doesn't have a bunk bed. He doesn't have a place to sleep. I'll help him out. And it just, it spreads. That's the great part about it.
Now, I assume you do this full time now. Is this your job, so to speak, now?
No, I actually have another job. I landed after I quit my job to do this full time. I didn't want to. I was kind of forced, and so S&P wasn't ready to pay me a full salary. Certainly not even near the salary I was getting. And so I was very fortunate to have a great company hire me, very flexible with me, so I can do SHP still in my part-time after-hours time. But it's not to the point where it can pay me a full salary. And there's a lot of people in SHP right here that would need that probably deserve a salary because they spend a lot of their own time at SHP. There's no paid employee, and we're all doing this part time in our spare time.
We do have some people listening in, and we've got a few comments. Melvin says, there's different organizations and church groups here in our Middle Ohio Valley that basically do some of the same things and help out. But but your organization has gotten, like we were talking about, the popularity through Mike Rowe and his show. So it's just adding to. It's something that you just can never have enough. That there's always talk about. There's children that are not getting 3 meals a day. So there's elderly people that are not getting meals every day. So there's several organizations that all help, and every little bit counts. So
yeah, now Terry,
there's we've learned there are organizations out there that do supply other things, and beds are part of that, and that's wonderful. I've talked to a few organizations that started out building beds, but they have now turned into they provide all the furniture. And we've found with SHP that we wanted to find a niche, and we wanted to find something that we're good at and only stick to that. When we first started, we were accepting, coats and presents and food and all sorts of stuff. And we sat down after that first year and said, you know what? Let's be really good at building bunk beds. Let's be really efficient, because that's the need that really is not being addressed. And as we've connected with more nonprofits throughout the country that provide furniture and provide homeless people and things of that nature, the number one piece of furniture that they have the hardest time getting is beds. So we feel like that's a really important need.
I think Craig was getting ready to mention Terry Taylor had made a comment. Do you make single beds of only bunk beds, or are you available? Do you have a process where there may be a husband and wife that do not have a bed that you can also build bigger beds, or maybe just single beds for kids as well, or is it just strictly bunk beds?
So it's bunk beds that break apart into singles. So we'll deliver a bunk and a half, or they're the design. Once you see the design is very simple. It's actually the same two single beds except flipped up on top of itself. And so the design's very simple. And the other thing we decided, there's such a big need that we've just decided to target children.
Okay.
They're the ones that haven't made choices, that have put them in that situation. And we feel if we're going to be able to supply someone, let's supply someone that needs it the worst. And it's the kids. And it is sad. Once in a while, you'll have a parent or a single mom that's in bed, and we would love to support them. We just feel like that bed, we have so much need right now. We want that bed to go to a child.
And these are built on a pattern, so I'm assuming that if there's two children that just need a bed and they're in different houses, you're building a set, which is a bunk bed, and then they all will fit together.
Yeah, that's correct. We actually don't even assemble the bunks anymore when we build them. We just build the pieces. They all fit together.
Oh, okay.
When we first started, oh man, it was tough. We built them all, and then we'd sand them when they're all assembled, and when we'd stain them when they're all assembled. It took a long time, and the top right side railing had to stay on the top right side railing. It couldn't go down to the bottom left. It was just a pain, and just through the years, we got much better at it. We got much more efficient. I'll give you an example. We wanted to get an enclosed trailer because we wanted to deliver these even when it was raining and snowing outside. And so doing measurements, I designed and found that if I bought an 8.5-foot trailer by 16-foot trailer, I could fit 4 heated bunk beds in there. And it was amazing. I could deliver 4 bunk beds at one night. I look back at that now. I can take that same 16-foot trailer with all my tools in it, all the bedding, all the mattresses needed. I can fit 20 bunk beds in there.
So you've learned you've learned the idea of as long as they can be taken apart, that you can make sure everything fits and then take it apart, and then it's like a bunk bed kit. So when it gets to the customer, that they can put it together. That's great.
We ended up having to take them all apart. You're dealing with really small quarters, these houses, single wide trailers. I mean, it's tough. And so most of the time we had to take them apart anyway. So you'd show up with a complete bunk, and then you'd have to take it apart at the house, bring them in and put it together. It went so much faster to be able to fully unassemble, grab the pieces you need, bring them in, put it together, and you're good to go.
Now, do they come? You're using wood here from Lowe's and things. Do you stain them, or is it just the raw wood? So I'm thinking of kids now. They like to paint on walls and paint on the floor. Is it something they can decorate after they get it?
Absolutely. In fact, when we first started, we were using just wood stain. And if you're familiar with using wood stain, number one, it's expensive, and it takes forever to dry. Mm-hmm. So we had bunk beds that were 3 weeks old, trying to deliver them, and they were still pretty tacky. So through the years, we just tried to make that process better. It took a long time to apply. It took a long time to dry. It was expensive. So we started thinning it out to try to spread it out, and that didn't work really well. And finally, it was my wife and her friend Tanya that showed us, of course, the crafty solve all, go to Pinterest, right? They found that if you add steel wool to vinegar and then dip the wood in it, it actually would darken and stain the wood. And so we tried it, and it worked great. It was cheap. And most of the time, we got the vinegar for free. And the best part, it dried in 20, 30 minutes.
Oh.
So vinegar, you use vinegar?
So now we actually...
Vinegar and steel wool.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, if you buy it, so what you'll take is a headboard, and we just take a tote and cut it in half, and the headboard fits perfectly in that tote. So we fill the tote up full of about 25 gallons of vinegar and the the steel wood dissolved in it, and then we'll drop that headboard in it for about 10 seconds, pull it out, and it looks like it's just wet. So you set it off to the side, and it slowly gets darker, darker as that wood oxidizes, and that reaction, vinegar reaction with the wood, it just turns a nice grayish brown. It's really neat.
And it's environmentally friendly.
There you go.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking about with, the kids get older. There may be a time that the bunk beds are used, and then a neighbor down the street needs them. They can, you're making them out of thick wood. You said 2 by 6s. So these are not bunk beds like you go down to the store and maybe rent to own or something, and a year later it's like the thing's falling apart. So really making them.
We wanted these to be secured. We could actually probably make them cheaper with a little bit different design, but we love the design because there's a lot of things part of this bed that have to fall apart or fail before you have a catastrophe or a kid gets hurt. And that's the most important part. So even though it might save us 10 or 15 bucks per bunk, we want to make sure the integrity of the bed stays where it is. We have 300-pound guys crawl up on there to make sure it works. And actually the weakest part of the bed is actually the slats. So if anything's going to fail first, slats.
We might be able to use some bunk beds here at the man cave here after one of the UFC parties, Craig.
So what is the what was it like working with Mike Rowe?
You can imagine that he's exactly how he appeared. I mean, he's a laid back, hands in his pockets, not in a hurry, very pleasant to talk to guy. We just had a wonderful time. I only got to spend a day, well, not even that, just a couple hours before the reveal and 5 minutes with him after the reveal. But it was fun to talk to him. He was just down to earth, totally unassuming, and just there to hear about your story. And he's just one of those guys that you could be around with, enjoy being around all the time.
I think he has opened a lot of people's eyes of as the generational things go. We've talked about that woodworking and general shopping things were removed from some schools. I'm not sure. I think Belpre still has some here in our area across the Ohio River, but they took some of the classes out of the school and moved them to the vocational part, like the pre-college kind of thing. But
even the Dirty Jobs show that he had on TV, it's just some of those jobs really makes you appreciate what you do, especially excuse me, there was one of the ones I saw with coal miners, and I tell you what, some of the places that he crawled in and went through, there's no way that I don't care how much they paid me, I wouldn't have been crawling into a coal mine.
Well, they're definitely dirty jobs, but and I think our youth today needs to be educated on that. No, it doesn't pay $20 an hour. You don't have to go to college 4 years, but you can get a job, and if you know how to use a hammer, I mean,
well, how about
I see it ads all the time.
How about where where some of this stuff comes from? He did one on eggs. He did one on pillows. Down pillows, and yeah, where some of this, I think he did one at a meat packing plant, where your meat comes from. This is, so yeah.
Well, physical labor.
Well,
I think it was a part of life in this country for such a long time, and I think we've gotten away from it. I mean, kids don't do you don't even see paper boys anymore. I see people in their 40s and 50s delivering papers, mowing lawns.
Well,
the service comes in. So
yeah, you get people that feel like working with their hands is a bad thing, and I did an interview a little while ago. It talked about how the art of woodworking and working with your hands is almost becoming a lost art. There's so much service and computer and software opportunities out there that these kids are losing the value of hard work and enjoying the sweat of working hard. And that's what I think when we have a build day. I tell all the chapter presidents, look, the goal is obviously up there. But for him, for that particular chapter president, that is not his goal. His goal is to make sure that everybody has a job and they're working, and they've got a job working hard.
Oh,
the best volunteers we see are the ones that are the dustiest and the sweatiest, and they have the best time.
You're building bunk beds, but you're secretly teaching work ethic.
Don't tell anybody.
At the end of the day, look what we did. We talked and we had fun and we took breaks and everything. At the end of the day, we made something that's going to last for a long time and help out some kids in the community. But we built something, and I like that. So what? I want to do it again.
Listen, Nathan.
I'd like to build another one.
I learned this when we would post these build days. Like in the newspaper. And so people would just show up, never met them before, don't even know who they were. And I remember this particular old guy showed up, and I asked him if he, had any experience. And he was a carpenter for 30 years. And I said, the most dangerous piece of equipment we have is a miter. So we put only either SHP staff guys on it or really experienced people. So I grabbed him and said, hey, you run a miter saw? And he says, oh yeah, no problem. He didn't leave that miter saw for 4 hours, which is kind of a longer build. But and this guy was probably 70, 75 years old. And he came up to me and he says, I want to tell you something. He says, I donate a lot of my time, soup kitchens, homeless shelters, all that. He says, I have never been to a service activity like this where I walked in, 5 minutes later, I had a job, and I stopped doing that job for 4 hours. And he said, that was the funnest activity I've ever done.
Well, I have the dream to have a wood shop. Like we were talking about having them in school. I'm on my way. I've got, what is it, the saw that goes back and forth, the radial arm saw and table saw, and you're talking about the miter one that goes like that. So you don't have a lot of power tools as far as saw, but most of the things get put together with you're using hand tools. That's where we're talking about using your hands. Is that I know they've got a friend of mine's got the woodworking shop now. You lay the piece of wood down, and the computer tells the thing to cut all the parts out and everything, and you go get something to eat and come back like, oh, they're done. Here it is.
They're done.
So you're not actually going back with the leather belts and the steam, but you're doing things that definitely people could transfer. Hey, I've got my wife wants a new coffee table. I can take the skills that I learned helping out here making bunk beds. Well, I can make her a coffee table, or I can make her a table for dinner.
Now, Nathan, some of your speakers, Nathan does speak from experience on woodworking.
I have built some speakers.
If you see some of the speaker cabinets that he's built, and sometimes it takes 3 people to carry it out of the establishment, but
built the last.
Yes,
it's definitely.
Is there any? I use a lot of glue, and that goes with my mom and dad. They knew it. Kids want something for Christmas. What do you want? It's like, well, I want an air compressor and a Brad gun, so I can build stuff together. And all you need is some liquid nails, and you're ready to go.
I tell you what, Nathan, that is not a very common Christmas present nowadays.
I want the new PlayStation 50. I want a game that costs $100, and that's we're talking about community here and everything. I would say you could go to Lowe's today and get the air compressor Brad gun combo for about $300. And to put that in dollar amount today, that's about, Craig, you've got some younger kids. That would be two games for PlayStation 4.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah.
The kid may play both of them, and in 2 weeks they're bored, so they're trading them in for $10 at Take 'em Backs, and they want 2 more. So, and you can't build anything with it.
Well, Nathan, you're going to find we found not just kids, adults too. We've had adults. And not that it's a male specific, but you would imagine that an adult man that's got a couple of kids has used a drill before. You'd be surprised. You got guys coming out that they're embarrassed, so they don't want to tell you that they've never really ran a drill before. But as you watch them and they burn up your drill because they don't understand how to use it. I was just shocked and realized that there are people out there because of their industry or how they grew up or their education or their vocation. There's no need, and so there's so many good opportunities out there to teach your kids and to fix it at home that these guys or gals or moms or dads don't have the experience using these tools, and they're kind of afraid of them. They can come to a build, and they can touch. All we have is a miter saw, to palm sanders, to drill presses, and to hand drills. That's really all the tools that we use. But you can do a lot of stuff with those 4 tools.
And it sounds like you go to garage sales around. We're getting into that season. The tools you've mentioned, 80% of those are available for $10, $15 each at the local yard sale. So if you're thinking about putting one of these build a bed programs together, it's like, oh my, that's going to cost thousands of dollars for tools. It's like, oh well, I'm sure if my mom was listening, she would come home and say, oh yeah, I bought you a drill for $10 at the garage sale today.
I was actually going to ask, what does it take to get one of these chapters going?
You bet. So, cost-wise, if you went to Lowe's and bought full list price, it's about $3,500 because you got a miter saw with a miter stand. Then we ask you to get about 12 hand sanders, so you've got 12 people at least can sand because that's the slowest part of the whole process. Then we want to get you 1 drill press, and I think it's 6 drill combos, and then all the little pieces on the drill bit that go with that. And so your initial package is $3,500, and if you get a loan or a company that can donate or give you a good discount, you can get a chapter started for $2,000.
Gotcha. What's the furthest east in your chapters that you currently have? Do you know right off the top of your head?
Maryland,
really? We're that close. I didn't realize we that close. That's all.
I was gonna bring up. You're in West Virginia, correct?
Yeah,
we're right on the border of the Ohio River. We like to say sometimes we're about an hour or 2 hours from everything. We're 2 hours from Columbus, 3 hours from Pittsburgh, 2.5 Cincinnati. We're kind of like in the middle, about an hour from Charleston. So we've got a lot. We don't have to travel too far to get to concerts and things, but we were talking about on a previous show. We're hoping soon here to get a venue to have concerts that'll hold a couple thousand people. But
Yeah, what was you getting ready to say there, Luke? What was there?
So when the RTF episode aired, we had, it's now grown to over 1,000 new chapter requests for want to start a chapter.
ooh,
And so, yeah, we weren't sure how we were going to handle that influx of requests, but we put together a program, and we were kind of working towards this process because we knew we were going to get some. We didn't think we were going to get 1,000, but we knew we were going to get some. And so the process we have now is, if anybody's interested in starting a chapter like those 1,000, they go to the website, they click on the words "start a chapter," and that prompts an email for them to. They receive an email that then they go to a link and actually listen to a webinar. And it's about an hour long. It goes over a 50,000-foot view of SHP and what a chapter president does. Once they're done with that, they immediately get an email that has a link to an application. So if they want to continue on, they fill out an application. And I say we probably lose half of those, maybe 40% of those applications, or those people, they don't fill an application. So once they fill an application, then we have the country split up in 5 different regions. I cover the South, and we have regional directors that cover all the other ones. Anyways, they get an email. The regionals get an email saying, "Hey, you have a new contact. Joe Blow down in West Virginia is interested in starting a chapter and has filled out an application." So the regional director then does a webinar with them and gives them more of a 5,000-foot view. And so of those that have filled the application, I think we're at 210 that have filled out an application, and only one in West Virginia.
oh,
In Marysburg. No. Martinsburg.
Martinsburg. That's in Eastern Panhandle.
we had a question on one of the comments. Do you have a picture or a place that we can see? It's obvious you have probably on the website where you can see a picture of what the beds look
Our
like.
Facebook page.
Yeah, actually, I was bringing up the page.
Website is shpbeds.org.
shpbeds.org. Okay.
That also shows all the active chapters. We haven't got the new 8 ones on yet, but that's where people can see where the active chapters are. They can also go there and request a bed, and that's how we know where the kids are at and how we decide who gets who or who gets what.
Yeah, actually, I found a couple here. I'll post them on there.
In fact, I could probably. You wouldn't be able to see it through the camera very much. So I'm going to bring up let's see if I can bring up a Google map here.
There's a picture of them making them.
Oh, okay. And you talk about that you have, it's like a bed making party or a bed making session.
A build day.
A build day. You say you're gonna, let's say you're going to build 10. That would be your goal for the day. How long does it take to build 10? Because you're obviously building them in bulk. You're not building one and then now we build another one and another one. You're
Correct.
What is the time frame?
We call them a train. And so what happens is when the volunteers show up, we just find out what they feel comfortable with, whether they want to sand or stain or drill or miter saw or press. But the process is we measure and cut the wood. Then it goes to the next station, which is the sanding station. Then when they're done with the sanding station, it goes to what's called the tap station, which is just a jig that taps a mark in the wood so we know where to drill. Then from the tap station, it goes to the drill press. and we got people that drill press out the hole. Then it goes to the headboard assembly, and that's where another station, they put the headboards together, and then they go to we call it the finish station, where they finish all the holes out, do some like final sanding if we miss anything. Then they get dipped into the vinegar, and then they get stained. And so when people first show up, it takes about 30 minutes, 40 minutes for people to get comfortable. They get the flow down. We only might build 2 or 3 bunk beds. But it's really interesting because after that 30, 40 minutes, all the SHP experienced staff guys, we all back away. And then all of a sudden, all these new volunteers that have never built a bunk bed in their life, maybe have never touched a drill before, they're working together. It's the craziest thing. You'll have 60 people in there, and they're hardly talking to each other because everybody knows their job, and they're just going here and there and grabbing this and grabbing that. And then once we get to that point, we can go in and out.
Yeah, it wouldn't let me post it directly on our live thing for some reason or other, but I went ahead and posted it on our page. So anybody like to get a look? I've got them up on the main wall there.
Oh, okay. I guess I was going to kind of relate it to I do some bingo events, and Craig and I are both DJs, and we do karaoke. So, but at a lot of events there'll be the concession stand. So, it's not run. I've also worked some restaurants too, where you have highly trained people to do exactly what they're going to do. So, we get the event together, and the kitchen's running, and you've got all the volunteers, and they're in their station, and you're taco person. You're the one doing that, your specific job. You're putting the cheese on the nachos. We got the hot dog person in the bun. We got the sauce, and that's kind of what you're talking about. You're making a stew there of that you've trained somebody what their thing is to do, and they're getting into it because it's something new that maybe they've never done before, or maybe they did a long time ago. Maybe they're retired, and it's like, their wife may say, hey, they're having a bed building event down at the church on Sunday night. Maybe you ought to go down there and help them so she can, maybe get the house cleaned. And he knows how to use tools, but he might be a little unfamiliar. So great motivation to get people moving around. I mean, it is exercise for those that have not done any woodworking. It's not all about just getting dusty. That you don't realize. When I was a little kid, you're using just a manual screwdriver, and then it's like you put about 10 or 15 screws in, and it's like, ooh, my wrist is hurting a little bit. Maybe I should get. I remember when the what was the first ones? The Black & Decker came out with the cordless screwdriver that it didn't have very much power, so it would run dead, and then you would end up screwing the screws in by yourself.
Yep.
But I was like, wow, that's
man, what an invention though. That was.
You had to have 2 of them, so when one of them went dead, the other one's charging. And now here we are. I don't know what you haven't given us a equipment list, but I'm assuming some cordless drills, or with batteries. So you charge the battery up, but
those hammer drills are amazing.
Hammer drills.
Oh yeah.
But you're learning how to use tools that maybe people haven't got to use, and the work is speedy, but you've got a crew of 15, 20 people. We made 10 beds in 2 hours, and it's quality that's going to last for a long time, and maybe be passed down to another generation, or and you're spreading the community wealth. That's the best thing I can say.
Well, and I think what happens is people volunteer at soup kitchens, or they wrap presents at Christmas time, or there's a lot of great charities out there. But I think what makes this a little bit different is there's just something about walking into a warehouse, or walking up to a parking lot where we're doing a build. You see a stack of wood over there, and in 2 hours, the stack's gone because over here it's 20 bunk beds. You know, that's 40 kids. And we did that in 3 hours. You know, I don't know what better 3 hours of your time you can spend Saturday morning.
So how did it make
40
you,
kids.
Yeah, and how did it make you feel when Mike showed up there? I mean, it's, you know, the surprise. I mean, I couldn't imagine
it was,
if, you know.
You know what was interesting is I got a call. It was about October, and this gal said, "Hey, can we do an interview with you?" And I said, "Oh, sure. That's not an uncommon thing." And she says, "Well, we'd like to do a video interview." And I thought, well, that's kind of odd. I've never had that before. And I said, "Sure, you know, we'll do something." And so I said we couldn't get Skype working or whatnot, so we ended up just doing a FaceTime. And we went through the interview, just the same old question. And then she said, at the very end, I was like, "So, by the way, what is this for?" And she's like, "Well, we're from New York and just are putting together this magazine profiling all, you know, people that are doing good in the community for the internet." And I was like, an internet magazine? Okay, I've never heard that before, but okay, whatever. And so, and we left it at that. So I went on a hunting trip, came back from a hunting trip, and on the way back, I had my deer in the back. I was tired, sweaty, wanting to get home, and all of a sudden I get this phone call, and I look at my phone, and I'm like, I don't know anybody in New York, but I'll answer it. What's the chances, you know? And it was actually her. Said, "Hey, we'd like to know a little bit more about you. Fly out and film you." And I was like, "Wait a minute, where are you from?" And she's like, "Well, I'm from Tampa, but we're up here in New York." I'm like, "You want to fly from New York to Idaho to film me?" I mean, it was just, I couldn't have fathomed, right?
Something here seems like, a little weird. Okay.
Right. You know, and I'm a pretty inquisitive guy anyway. So I was like, okay, that's cool. So she's like, "Well, I got to send you a background check." I say, "Sure." So I get this email. I was laying in bed with my wife, and this email comes up, and I was telling her about this phone call, and I said, "Oh, here's the background check." Well, it was, I think it was 9 pages long, and the background check was page 1. That was it. The rest was all photo release for TV show. I mean, it was just a crazy. What is this?
We can use your likeness in whole or in part at our discretion.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
and you approve.
Oh, yeah. And so I'm sitting there, I look at my wife, and I said, "Wait a minute. This is a little different." And then it was the next, and they wanted to come out in November. It was like November 14th. And so a week went by, and my buddy Jordan, who's our chairman of the board, calls me up, and he says, "You need to take the 17th, 18th off." I said, "Why is that?" He's like, "You just need to take it off, like from work." And I'm like, "Okay." and I'd already had some trouble at work. It was a company that I was going to buy with my brother, and anyways, long story short, I had to go ask my boss for the last 2 days of my PTO. I needed off, and he said, "Why?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, other than I was told." And he said, "Is it for SHP?" I said, "Well, yes, it is." He says, "Well, then we need to have a different conversation." I said, "Okay." And he said, "You need to think about whether you're going to work here or work at SHP."
Oh, wow.
And I was just floored.
The fork in the road,
I said,
the
well,
crossroads.
Yeah.
Which way do I go?
I said, can I have a week? I mean, I already knew what I wanted to do, but I was thinking, 100, 125 plus and comfortable. And so I went home and talked to my wife, and she says, it's time that you need to go and do what you're passionate about. And so I quit. And I was, it was tough, but I was excited. I mean, I had that off. Now I could focus in on SHP. But what happened was everybody else in SHP knew what was going on but me. Oh, and they told everybody, our chairman of the board and Scott, who was the inside man, told everybody, don't talk to Luke. If he calls, don't answer. Be very brief. You have to, but don't talk to Luke. So here I quit my job. I'm ready to get this ball rolling, and no one would talk to me. No one would email. And I'm freaking out, right? And so, and they just kept saying, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, what about this training? We got people coming, and what are we going to do? And they're like, just leave it alone. And so I knew something was coming. It was bigger than maybe just this magazine, but had no idea it was going to be Mike Rowe. So when I was doing our training, and I had been interviewed the day before about what SHP was, all of that. They were asking some kind of funny questions about the building. Well, this building doesn't have any heat or doesn't have air conditioning. Is that a problem? What would you like? What was your goal? And I actually love the building because I never had one. It was donated to us for rent free, and we fixed it up. I put my heart and soul in it. Put a bathroom, electrical, and everything into it. Took a year to do it, but we got her done.
Now, just to get straight there, the heat in this building. Now, I did watch this obviously, and the heat in the building was a little fireplace over in the corner, or a little wood stove. Isn't that correct?
So we that's right. We actually got the building donated probably April before that, and we got it all fixed up. And the funny thing is, we didn't have any heat. It didn't have anything in it. And so here it came Christmas time, and we had an Eagle Scout that was doing his Eagle Scout project with us, and it was 16 degrees out. And I said, we didn't have a lot of money in the budget. And I said, guys, we got to go do something. And I happened to go on Facebook and saw this. It was a Craigslist. And I saw this lime green, crazy fireplace or fire pit, stove. And I said, we got to go get it. So we went and got it installed 2 days before that build. We showed up, and it was 16 degrees outside.
Oh, wow.
It was a little chilly in there.
So they're asking you for a wish list of what would be better? What could we do better here? And you have no idea that in a couple of days or hours that
yeah. Now, Nathan, keep in mind, there's no plumbing in this place either, right? And if I remember right, you were using buckets for...
Well, that's how we started out.
Yeah,
so I was not aware of that, Craig. This was an empty. This was an empty building. So if you needed to
sort of like the man
go
cave.
outside for us, like the man cave, you had to go outside, or you had to go behind the curtain there. Yes, okay. So
when we first walked in, we actually got the building because the great couple that donated to us, she had been kind of following us through the year. And all of a sudden, I got this huge mattress donation. It was 85 mattresses, and I mean, my garage was already full. And so they offered this building to us, and so it was trashed. I mean, there was dead rats, there was garbage everywhere, there were shelves that were just torn down. There was no electricity. The bathroom that was there was the toilet was actually sitting on like a wood crate because it wasn't on the ground. And of course, it didn't work. None of the plumbing had worked for 30 years. It was kind of a lean-to. There was there was pornography all over. I mean, it was just a mechanic shop, and so we tore it down and built a new bathroom over the 6-month period. So we had volunteers did actually eventually have a nice bathroom. We put windows, we put a new roof on, we put electrical in it. So we spent it was about $15,000 that we put into that building.
Now, that brings up a good point with building things and talking about spending funds and things. You're kind of franchising here. Are each of the places that build the beds, are they part of the organization of I want to say 501c type of thing? Like it turns into a nonprofit organization thing, so that you're legit when you go to Lowe's and say, oh well, I'm here to make beds and everything, and you can show your paperwork and say, oh, you're from that organization, so that everything.
Yeah, all the chapters that we put on operate underneath our 501c3, and so they get to use that number. All the donations that chapter receives stay in that chapter. It goes to the expenses of that chapter. So we have national insurance, and we've got to pay for CPA to do our taxes at the end of the year. And so those kind of things do come out of the different chapters to support us nationally. But we don't want the West Virginia chapter to raise money for the San Diego kids. We want to teach the chapter presidents how to raise money for themselves, how to build beds so it stays in the community.
Well, that's great. I just wanted to, for those that are tuning in here to Robert's Report, we're talking to Luke Mickelson, who is the founding member of Sleep in a Heavenly Peace for building beds. They're bunk beds, but they can be taken apart, so it's two separate beds. And was just trying to figure out how to explain it. Of that, you're basically it is kind of like a franchise, but you're giving everybody the tools to start it in their community to build beds for kids that do not have a bed. And it's not just the frame, but you're getting mattresses donated, and you've got some corporate sponsors here. With, like you said, with your discount program. So you're giving there isn't any money that needs to be sent to you to start this.
Nope.
How would one go about, like? Let's say Craig and I decide that we want to start one here in Parkersburg. What would be the first thing we would need to do? Is it do we go to the website?
So, you'd go to the website and click on Start a Chapter. There's a little piece of information, name, email address, things of that nature, where you live. And once you hit Submit, you'll receive an email to watch a webinar, which is a pre-recorded webinar that we did with the first round of new chapter requests. And then once you watch that, the whole idea here is to make sure we give you as much information about being a chapter president as possible so you can make a good decision for yourself. Every chapter president has the same concern, and it's a very valid concern, but it's the same concern. And that is, I don't know if I have enough time to do this. And I laugh because none of us had enough time to do this when we started, but you figure out how to make it work. The trouble we have right now is it's so addicting. We actually have to tell our chapter presidents and teach them how to have a balanced life, not to spend so much time on SHP because it is extremely addicting.
How many hours a week would you? I was going to ask, how many hours a week would you say you're talking about? Someone with a 40-hour a week job, that this is something that could be taken care of on the weekends, but you may be getting into Well, if you have kids that play soccer and volleyball and baseball, and that it's going to take time away from that.
So we tell all the chapter presidents it's as fast or as slow as you want to go. So when a chapter president starts, his first thing is just to raise money. And, that can happen after hours, maybe a phone call during the hour. You might have a presentation that you'll do at lunch with someone every once in a while. But usually that's, 4 hours a week. It's really not a lot. The build days are a lot, which is just a Saturday. You'll spend at 6 in the morning till 5 in the evening building, and then taking the bunks back to the storage unit. So it's not that part of it's not super time consuming, but now you've got 20 bunk beds, you've got 100 applicants, and delivering 20 bunk beds takes some time. So I used to do it every Sunday afternoon with my family. That's what we delivered bunk beds. We do 2 or 3 or something like that. And so it take us a month or so to go through all of those bunk beds. And so we'd only spend, maybe 3 or 4 hours a week after hours delivering bunk beds. Where it gets addicting is you get a lot of people that want to learn about this, that want to have you come to their church, come to the Kiwanis clubs or Blues Lodge or whatever, and do these presentations. And because they want to give you money. And it's really hard. It's really hard to, once you do a build and you realize how fun it is, you had a great time. A lot of people want to do it again. And usually what happens is you do a build, and you get people that were at the build going, what? My company should do this. And then 2 weeks later, hey, by the way, remember I was at the build? I talked to my boss. Here's $5,000. Could we do a build in a month? How can you say no? And that's where it's a balance that our chapter presidents struggle with is there's just so many people that want to get involved. You had fun. They had fun. And then money comes in to make it happen. It's just hard to say no.
And I didn't kind of finish the whole story behind the building. What I was getting at was the happy ending with what happened after Mike Rowe's show came through.
The old building?
Yeah, just all the whole everything together.
Oh, the whole thing?
Obviously you're not in that building anymore.
Oh, what?
No, we're not. No, we actually had a 6-year lease with that building, and we didn't need it anymore. And despite the fact that we put a lot of money into it, we had it for a year and a half, a little less than that, with rent free, and so I was glad to be able to give it back to Dave and Mindy, and the
about how
condition
big was it?
It was
Luke?
great condition.
About how big was that?
It was 35 by about 60.
Okay.
Yeah, and the new building's just under 2,500 square feet. But as you saw in the episode, it works perfectly for us. In fact, what you don't see in the episode that we have now is we have a second level in the back.
Yeah.
They extended the office over. All our bedding and mattresses and stuff, they're all up above the office and bathroom.
Right.
Which is really nice because we get all that dust and stuff you would collect down below. It gets it out of the way, and so they stay clean.
Now, you had mentioned that you've done this in a parking lot, but what would be the minimum size building? Obviously I've worked in woodworking and I've built speakers and things in a one-stall garage, but what would be the minimum size room you would say you would need for to make a reasonable amount of, say we're making 10 beds? Would a two-stall garage do that?
Yeah, about 1,500 square feet is about all you need. If you get a lot more volunteers, right? But our first garage, or our first built bunks in, was about 1,800 square feet, and we built 25 in there.
because you had mentioned that you're not you're hoping to know how many volunteers you're going to have before the event starts, but that may grow because it's like, hey, where are you going? And so they bring 3 people, so you end up with 50 people in a very small room, and you don't want people climbing over top of each other. So 1,500 square feet.
Yeah, usually what happens is you'll have we call it the 50% rule. So if you want 25 volunteers, let me back up. So we actually ask for, and it's a good number to have 2 volunteers per thing you're going to build. So if you're going to build a 10 bucks, it's good to have 20 volunteers. And the 50% rule is then you better ask and get committed for 40 people, because about 50% don't show up.
Oh, okay.
Even after they commit.
Do you have any specific stories that you can share that on some of the ones that you did donate and you just remember, and you know what I mean?
A bigger build or a smaller build, or
I know you have hundreds and thousands of stories probably, but is there any of them that just kind of stuck out in your head that you know what?
The very first one. I take that back. It was not the one in my garage. It was the second year. It was really memorable. And it's hard to explain, but we used to build them so differently. Let me give you an example. One of the big budget items of the tools that we needed was knee pads, because people were on their knees, and that's how we assembled the bunks. We put the wood on top of each other, and we'd screw the holes down, and it was just a mess. I mean, if you ask me to go build a bunk bed like that now, I'd punch you in the face. It's just, it's crazy. But they were good experiences, because we learned, and we'd sit here and we'd build 3 or 4 of them, and we'd sit there and go, you know what? Let's do this differently. And then we do that. And then we do this. We've changed that design, 10 times over. And that's been the fun part. So that first year, those builds, partly because it was new to us. We were getting all the new people coming in and feeling the new spirit of it. But it was the growth, it was the things that we went through that was really exciting to see.
I guess I'm looking. That's cool. I'm kind of looking for more of the feelings that you got from the ones that you give the bed to. The rewarding part of it. What do you have any of those that are just?
Absolutely. I'll give you my very favorite one, which was obviously the first one. And this is a pretty common situation now, but if you can imagine, if you've ever been into a home where, I'll just tell you, we walked into this home, and it was a mom and her daughter, and they had another daughter, but she wasn't there. They had just come out of homelessness. So we walk in this house. It was me and my wife and my friend Jordan. And we look around, and there was nothing in the house. I mean, the wallpaper was kind of ripped. The carpet was ripped. But they had no furniture. The only thing they had was in the kitchen, there was a box on the ground, and there was a heating plate on top with a can of soup on it. And this little girl was so excited to show us her room because she's never had one. So we go walking back there, and she's got a pile of clothes, like a nest in her corner of her room. And what she would do is she'd come home from school, she'd take her school clothes off, put her pajamas on, she'd sleep on those clothes, she'd wake up, take her pajamas off, put her school clothes on, and head to school. And that was her routine.
Wow.
And I couldn't believe it. We came in, we delivered the bed. She was so excited. She would hug the bed, kiss the bed. She would hug us. The mom was bawling because she wasn't going to be able to. She didn't have a bed, but she cared more about her daughters than she did. And so we went out in the truck, and it was me and my wife and Jordan sitting in the truck, and we didn't say anything for a while. It was just, we were so shocked. And that's when the motto really hit me in my heart. And I said, you know what? There's not going to be a kid in my town that's going to sleep on the floor in that kind of condition if I have anything to say about it. And so, we came up with the motto, no kid's going to sleep on the floor in our town. And we take that very serious. And, on a Saturday morning, if we can spend 3 or 4 hours and get 40 kids off of conditions or out of conditions like that, there's no amount of money that'll pull me away from that. There's no amount of, there's just so much passion behind that I want to do it all the time.
It's great that you mentioned that, there are a lot of single mothers out there. They've got a small boy, a small girl, and maybe they have just gotten the approval to have an apartment, and there isn't any furniture there. So you did say that the beds are strong enough for an adult to sleep in. So right there's furniture that they didn't have, and it's been built by the community. Maybe even the daughter and mother get to help build them, and that starts part of the home experience. And
hey, Luke, thanks for sharing that story. That was a really powerful story, and I felt your emotion, and it made me emotional as well, and I thought that was really great.
Well, just imagine if there's that one story, how many more are there that never get told?
Yeah.
Oh, guys, I'll tell you right now, that is a very common story, unfortunately. If you've seen the Return the Favor episode, when we walked downstairs to that basement, you didn't get a sense of it, but it's cold. I mean, it's Christmas, or it's winter time, and I remember Mike turned over to me and he says, he was kind of shocked, and he whispered in my ear and he said, is this normal? And unfortunately I had to turn to him and I said, Mike, at least they have mattresses. And actually before they showed up, they had the mattresses on power. So that's what you're sleeping on. If you can imagine. And these kids have been sleeping on something like that their whole life.
I think
and so it was a very common thing to see come into a situation like that. They'll be on concrete floors or a rug, but they're using their clothes for blankets or pillows.
It brings up there's a commercial on for needy children where that they say that there's an old lady that lives in a shoe, and that she's got 3 kids and she makes them some broth and then puts them to bed. That's she works all day. She works 12, 14 hours, and she's supporting all the kids by herself. And, it's something that we, you try and not think about a lot, but there are kids out there that are sleeping on the floor. You say that this girl was sleeping on extra clothes that didn't even have a mattress, and
you got people complaining. That's the other side of the story too. So how many people complain because they didn't get their coffee right, or they didn't get their I'm guilty. I'm going to tell you. You didn't get your chicken nuggets or your
hot
bag.
dog at Leroy's.
Leroy's, yeah, or something like that.
Well, it puts life in perspective. We all have to live and get along, and I get that. But you know what it helps. What I saw, anyways, is you've got a certain community that wants to help itself, but they don't even know what to do. And not only that, they don't even know that this is a problem. So when you talk to people, when I talk about what we do, there's usually 2 reactions. The first reaction is they don't believe me. They're like, well, everybody has a bed. I mean, who doesn't? You're not sleeping on the floor. Like, they don't believe me. It's crazy. And then and then, or the second reaction is, well, yeah, but that's not my community. That's in some real low poverty Compton type community.
Right.
They don't realize, no, it's right next door. And you've got you got a single mom or a single dad or foster care program. They provide shelter, they provide food and water, and maybe that's all they can provide. And so a bed, as much as of a necessity it is, it's not that big of a necessity. And so these parents are doing the best they can, or single parents doing the best they can by providing food and shelter. A bed is just one thing that gets provided.
Now, do you ever work with Habitat for Humanities or anything like that, or is it or do you pretty much do on your own?
No, we actually we like to work with other organizations. In fact, last year we donated bunk beds to over 45 different nonprofits, and the reason why is because we don't have the time to go and do really good vetting of these situations. Anybody can apply for a bunk bed. They just go to the website, they click on request a bed, they fill out a form either for themselves or for someone they know, a family member, a neighbor, or Habitat for Humanity employee can fill it out for someone they know. Anybody can fill it out. Once they hit submit, then that application goes to the closest chapter president to where the recipient is. And then the chapter presidents have the responsibility to go through all of these applications, and there might be 150 of them, and you've got 5 bunk beds, and you got to determine which child is worth need. Where the agencies come into play is they're working with these families a lot more than we are. So we trust them, and they know where these families are really in need. So it's up to the chapter president, but I personally like to donate to the charities more than I do the individuals, just because I know that there's a real need there.
What's the distance that each one of these places serve? Radius?
It's up to the chapter president. Some of them, like in Phoenix, our Gilbert chapter in there, they only go about 25 miles tops. But I mean, it's Phoenix, 10 million people. But our Rexburg chapter in Idaho, we go 200 miles.
Have you partnered with any? I hate to jump in, but have you partnered with any rental type companies and things? Because I'm thinking of, we here in our area, we're kind of right on the edge of the country, so a lot of people have pickup trucks and trailers and things like that. But if you were in an area in the big city, it may be everybody has just a 2-door car or something. You definitely need a trailer or a box truck to haul the beds. Do you have any things in the works there of Ryder getting on board, or U-Haul, of that if you have a delivery that someone can come and pick up a truck and things like that for the day they need to be delivered, or supplies?
So like our Minnesota chapter in Burnsville, Minnesota, his truck, or excuse me, his company actually lets him use one of their box trucks anytime he wants. Our chapter in Maryland, she either has friends that have trucks, or she'll go get a U-Haul and rent a U-Haul for the day and do deliveries there. Some chapter presidents can grab a bunk and throw it in the back of their Suburban or back of their minivan and try to do deliveries there. But we encourage those that don't have that good of transport method, try to find someone that has a truck, is willing to help you out, and that's usually never a problem. We've got a lot of people that want to help.
We do have a lot of contractors around the Minnehaha Valley here. I mean, roofers and want people that build houses and things. So it's another delivery thing. And you said that sometimes you do deliveries on Sundays if your build day's on Saturdays. So that would be a good time for vehicles to be available.
Now, did the one you said Martinsburg, West Virginia, right? Did they are they in the works, or are they not in the works, or?
Let me see where they're at. So they do not have a training day sign up yet. So once they fill out the application, they get assigned to a mentor, and a mentor starts working with them. They give them another presentation and all of that. But the hardest thing for a new chapter request to do, we have them fly to the fall so they can get properly trained. So they have to raise money, sponsorship money, or if they want to pay it for themselves, they can. But they've got to get to Twin Falls. So on March 24th, we had our first training day for these new chapter presidents. We had 9 show up. And from that, we're starting 8 new chapters. And this Saturday on the 14th, we're going to have 33 show up.
Wow.
From all across the country.
That's crazy. Now, what did you do? I didn't get to catch your live video, but I saw you doing something or other with the local fire department there. What was going on with that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so our local chapter president, Scott Butler, here at Twin Falls, got with the Twin Falls Fire Department, the Kimberly Fire Department, and the Jerome Fire Department. Three towns really close to one another. And we sat down, and they all wanted to do a build. They could work with not only with one another, but the community. And so we said, hey, why don't we do a little friendly competition? So see who can raise the most money and see who can build 15 bunk beds the fastest. And so on the 21st of April, we're going to have 3 separate trains, and each department is over each train. Each is their own train. And we'll blow a horn, and they're going to see who can build the 15 bunk beds the fastest. Wow. And we've got prizes and stuff for those who do it. So it's going to be a really fun event. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be there because I can be in San Antonio for that new chapter's first build day. But that's going to be exciting by itself.
You had mentioned one of the members or one of the volunteers was in the Boy Scouts, and he was using it as one of his projects in Boy Scouts.
Yeah, so the Eagle Scouts have to finish an Eagle Scout project before they get their actual Eagle. And so most of the Scout councils have approved SHP Build Day as an approved Scout project or Eagle Scout project. So you'll get a boy scout trying to complete his Eagle. He comes and talks to us for scheduling and organizing a build day for his Eagle Scout project. Goes back, gets it approved, and then we just help him complete the build day as his Eagle Scout project.
Boy, I'm thinking, we have a boys and girls club here in town that's got quite a large area in it that you would almost have the kids building for, because I'm sure there's some kids there that might need a bed, that you've got all the facilities there, and it would be easy for them to, and in other cities where you've got a gym floor there, and
I think you sort of need to have the chapter first.
You've got to have the chapter first, but that's a great thing to have, because you need all the pieces to go together. You need the chapter, you need the president, you need a building to do it in, because it's not, you don't have to have a building dedicated to this. It could be, you can bring everything in for that build day, and then like you said, do them in a parking lot outside.
Doesn't get any better than the Boys and Girls Club either. Providing their service.
Well, there's. I may top you a little bit there. We have a real good story here in Rexburg, where the chapter president actually with the juvenile detention center.
Oh wow!
And every year, get this. This is crazy. So every year they have a project, and they always have a hard time trying to find a project. I think last year they made flower pots, which is cool, but they made flower pots. And the chapter president, Levi, said that you could tell that kids weren't all that excited. They would do the project because they were told to. Well, he presented to his superiors saying, "Hey, what if we did a build day for these boys?" And they loved it. And so you can imagine we had to get a lot of things approved to bring in tools. But we brought in these tools, and these troubled teens I think they built 6 bunk beds, and then helped them go deliver it. They couldn't, of course, go in the house, but they were a part of the delivery process. And the really neat story about behind the story is one of the boys that delivered or helped build and deliver the bed lived next door before he went to the center, and he was just I guess he was crying and was just so excited that he was a part of helping someone in his own literally neighborhood right next door. And so we can take these kids, which, by the way, in fact, the chapter president, when he was counseling these boys at this juvenile center, 75% of them grew up without a bed. So you take those numbers and you wonder where that goes.
There was another segment on the Returning the Favor, very similar kind of situation, I guess. I don't know if you've watched any more of the episodes, but excuse me, there was the one with the elderly lady that took in people that were being rehabilitated and give them jobs. I believe she's in Texas or something like that. But it was, of course, you go to prison, you do your time, and then you go out and you try to find a job, and a lot of people are not going to hire you if you have any kind of record at all. And this older lady, she, I mean, it's just good to see somebody actually rehabilitated or on their way to being rehabilitated and making some kind of a difference.
Well, and if you can catch these kids young, we walk into these places, and if you think about it, put yourself in their shoes. You're 7, 8 years old. You don't have a bed. You don't sleep well. Your clothes are probably wrinkly because you slept on them. You go to school. What kind of confidence you have?
Absolutely.
They've done a lot of studies where the lack of sleep is causing obviously a lot of attention deficit disorders. And internal anxiety because they don't own anything. And so what we do is we show up and we tell the kids, look, this bed is yours. It's not your parent. It's not your neighbor's. It's not mine. It's yours. So now they get a sense of ownership. They get something that they care for, that they can learn to care for, let alone they got a place to sleep. So it does more than just provides. It provides confidence. It provides self-esteem. And it's not ironic that 75% of those at juvenile center are there, probably because somewhat of the fact that they slept on the floor.
Can you imagine if you were one of them kids and you wanted to have friends over too? I mean, you talk about the confidence.
Oh,
They
don't have friends over, Craig. That's the problem.
Right.
Right. And now
I can have a sleepover now because I've got an extra bunk right above me.
Yeah.
You just don't have any friends. Man.
Yeah, we walked into the room like in Gilbert. We walked into a room where it was all cement floors, and it was probably 900 square feet, 2-bedroom, 900 square feet. The parents slept on blow-up mattresses in the front room, and the kids slept on. There was one blow-up mattress, but it would deflate 2-3 times a night.
Oh, jeez.
The other one slept on a blanket. These are concrete floors, and so they don't have any friends. They're not proud of their friends to come over and see their conditions. Certainly have a sleepover or something like that. If we can give a kid some sort of possession, they learn to take care of it. They learn to have a little pride in themselves. And the biggest thing, one of the biggest things, all of a sudden, there's these strangers that knock on the door, that they're giving them a bed. So I think it gives these kids the reality that, you know what, there's good people in the world, and there's other people that care about them. And that's huge.
I'm trying to think back to several years ago. We had a flood around here, and it was a two-story red roof inn, and they'd flooded once, and all the beds were replaced, and then it flooded again, and so all those mattresses and just steel frames were donated to the local Salvation Army, and if you were on listed as you could buy one, and then that money would go to the Salvation Army. But there were a lot of families that were happy to get it, because it's like we've been going on about that. There's things that you don't think about until it's, oh wow, there's kids that may not be getting several meals a day. They may be eating once a day. They don't have toys. They have a room, and they're sleeping on top of their clothes. So to have a bed and something, it's like, it's mine. I can it comes to be like a teenager, like, oh, I'm driving Dad's car, and then there's that one day when it's like, I'm driving my car, that
and I got to take care of it,
and I have to take care of it, and it's mine. So I got a bicycle, so it's definitely putting self-esteem in with like, got kids that do not it's showing worth of something. When you get something that's yours, that you learn to take care of it, and then that helps you out.
And quite honestly, it in the long run, that you get a less chance of feeling bitter with people, I guess, and turning bad and going to the drugs. And I mean, you hate to look at it that way, but it's a fact. I mean,
well,
I guess sometimes it's hard to describe how
on our
things
Facebook page. And
what was that?
Sorry, Nathan. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say how things kind of mushroom, or like the snowball grows of something that's taught to a child when they're young, like this, with possession of something that's ownership, that carries on, and as Craig was talking about, that shows, helps them out in the long run.
Yeah.
Well, we call it the ripple effect. You throw a rock at a pond, and you see how far those ripples can affect everything. And if you look at our Facebook pages and all over our website, you'll see a little girl hanging on a bed with the little, you can see the burn mark of the brand of SHP. Her name's Rose. Cutest little girl ever. And the story behind her is really amazing. So the family couldn't take care of the kids. So let's see, they had 2, 4, 5. They had 5 kids, and they were in the foster care program. They could not come home. The parents finally got together, and they got their crap together, but the judge said they cannot come home until they have beds. And I don't know how long they went, months and months before they got beds, suitable beds. They were actually, from what I understand, a family that we were going to go deliver bunk beds with Mike Rowe. But it was going to be 4 or 5 days before the show was here, and we couldn't wait. So we went and delivered it before the show showed up, because kids needed to go home, and the parents couldn't wait.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, and there's the one of the most touching ones was, it was, and this is not an uncommon thing, but there was a boy and a girl, brother and 6, 8, I think. Parents were out of the picture. Grandparents couldn't think of them. So they had to go in the foster care program. And they were all assigned to a family. Well, the family only had 1 bed. And so the judge says, okay, well, they need to be split up. And I mean, right in the courtroom. And one of the ladies that happened to know about SHP from the name of the agency is called CASA. she raised her hand, and the judge and kind of stopped everything and said, "Hey, wait, I have a solution. Can you give me 12 hours?" And the judge says, "You have 12 hours to get beds in that foster care family." So those two kids, the only people they know in their life are each other, are about to be split up because the foster care family didn't have another bed. They called us that night. We delivered the bed that morning, and the kids stayed together.
Wow. That's the kind of feel-good stories you like to hear with stuff like this, you know. Glad to hear you doing what you're doing, and man, just keep up the good work.
Thanks for sharing with us.
Yeah, it was
some great stories and great information about the organization and what you're doing and how new chapters get started up, and lots of great information.
Hopefully, we'll get more in. You know, Martinsburg. Maybe it'll be the first one in West Virginia, and it'll snowball. I'd like to see it. I'd like to do it. But
Yeah.
I'm.
And as you said, there isn't any cost involved, but there is definitely going to be a time commitment that you may not understand. It's going to take a few hours a week, but it's going to that you need to commit some time if you're going to be a chapter.
I tell you what, it's time that is obviously well spent, but it's not as much of a burden time thing, and but you know it's certainly at a time or a season in someone's life that works best for them. You know, a lot of retired people that have time are all over this, but a lot of our chapter young guys, 30, 35 or 40 years old, 45 years old, and you know they just find the time. But I tell everybody, look, you know what? If it's not right now, it could be later. But if you have a passion, we'll teach you how to do it. We'll show you how to do it. You go as fast or slow as you want. Just help you be successful. Because there's kids that are on the floor right now in your neighborhood, I guarantee you, that are sleeping in really bad situations.
No doubt in my mind at all.
And if you want anyone listening, if you want more information, you can go to the website for Sleep in Heavenly Peace.
And the Facebook page. They have a Facebook page too. Actually, if you go to the Facebook page, you can get to all of that.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
And each chapter has a different Facebook page. So we have, Sleep in Heavenly Peace is a Facebook page, or Sleep in Heavenly Peace / Burnsville, or
I noticed
Hartford County in Maryland.
Yeah.
So we and as these new chapters come online, we build them that way so people can learn what's going on in their own communities there.
And we can't thank Mike Rowe and his passion for blue collar, helping you spread the word even more of more and more chapters all over the United States.
Yeah, make sure you all get out there and check out Returning the Favor series. There's more stories than Luke's here as well, but this one definitely hit home, especially with this day and age of torn apart families and so many drug things in the news and stuff. I'm sure, like you said, there's situations that are unbelievable, that bad situations. So, well, Luke, thanks again for your time. And you mentioned it was an honor. Well, I can assure you that it was an honor for us, for you to share your stories with us. And
really great organization you've got.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
Keep up the good work. We'll continue to promote you guys on our end as much as we can as well. And just keep doing what you're doing. You're onto something for sure.
Thank you. Thank you all. I appreciate your time, and thanks for helping us get this word out to your side of the country and see if we can help more kids.
Absolutely. Next week we have we changed it change gears a little bit. We have Luke Atkinson. He is part of they call it the Hillbilly Mafia Motorcycle Services. He has a place out. He does Harley Davidsons out of Ripley, West Virginia. Here, he builds them, and they do different charity runs and things. So we're going to have Luke Atkinson actually here in our studios, and maybe the weather will be cool, and he'll bring one of his hot
Bring a
rods
sample,
down.
yes.
Bring a sample. That'd be awesome. But
permanent display.
But Luke, thanks again for your time. Appreciate it one last time there. And if there's anything at all that we can do that as far as promoting or anything on our side, feel free to contact us. We'll be more than happy to help you as much as we can. So
I'll tell you what, we have a build day out here pretty soon. I'll let you know, because that'd be fun to have you come.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Again, every Sunday, Roberts Report. Actually, we'll be changing time up here pretty soon. April 22nd, we'll be changing from 7 to 9 p.m.
Oh. Always live from the man cave.
That's right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Still looking for sponsors.
Peace.